I'm Evan Reed, 31 years old. At a late summer family BBQ in Parma, my girlfriend leaned over her plate, laughed, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "If I ever marry him, it'll be a miracle if I don't cheat." So I smiled, cleaned my plate, and started a quiet project that would end on a ballroom screen. If you were 31, where would you draw the line? I'd love to hear your thoughts below. It was one of those end of August Saturdays where the heat was just beginning to lose its edge. We were at my uncle's place in Parma, Ohio, the backyard, humming with voices and the smell of barbecue. Kids darted between folding chairs, someone had a baseball game on a tiny TV, and my uncle Mike was manning the grill like it was a military post. Lena and I had been living together for about a year by then in my house in Lakewood. We'd been dating for 2 years, but lately things had shifted. She was still vibrant and loud, and always knew how to fill a room, but something underneath had cooled. Or maybe I'd just started noticing it. That day, she was in full charm mode, flirting with my cousin's boyfriend, teasing my mom about her potato salad, laughing louder than needed. I watched, not upset, just tracking. Then it happened. She stabbed a slice of grilled zucchini with her fork, glanced around like it was part of some stand-up act, and dropped the line, "If I marry Evan, it'll be a miracle if I don't cheat." The whole table froze for a second. Someone let out a soft whoa and laughed nervously, trying to save her. I just nodded, wiped my hands on a napkin, and took a sip of water. No fireworks. No snapped words. Just that glassy silence between the impact and the echo. She didn't look at me. She didn't apologize. Later that evening, I was helping my Uncle Mike store chairs in his garage when he looked at me and said, "You gonna let that go, or are you gonna do something smart with it?" Mike used to be a cop, retired now but sharp as ever. I shrugged and tried to brush it off. He didn't. "Don't raise your voice. Don't give her the satisfaction of knowing she rattled you. If what she said is real, she'll show you more. All you gotta do is watch and document." That last word landed like a brick. Back at home that night, I walked into the kitchen and opened the cloud folder I used for work projects. Without thinking, I created a new one and titled it Parma B BQ0824. I didn't know then what exactly I was building. But I knew this: when a structure starts to show cracks, you don't yell at the concrete, you test the load. You check the design. You decide if it's worth salvaging or safer to tear down. That was the night I decided I wasn't going to fix anything. I was going to observe. The next few days, Lena was unusually sweet. She made dinner twice, washed her car, sent me memes she hadn't forwarded in months. I responded casually, kept everything surface level. I smiled a lot. I was calm. But behind that calm, I was structuring something. I started noting little things. Her phone never left her side. She turned the screen away during messages. At night, when I'd head to the bathroom or pretend to do laundry, I'd see her clearing logs, call lists, empty messages deleted. I wasn't looking for proof of cheating. I was looking for confirmation that her joke wasn't a one-off, that she thought I was a placeholder, a safe option until something more exciting came along. That's what Uncle Mike had meant. I didn't need rage, I needed receipts. I began keeping a log, not in some dramatic movie way, but like I would for a project. Date, time, activity, inconsistency. When you manage construction, you're trained to watch timelines, to notice when something's missing or late or clean too fast. Those instincts transferred easily. I didn't snoop. I didn't hack. I didn't cross any line that made me feel less than myself. But I noticed. 3 days after the BBQ, she mentioned going out with the girls. Except the night she said it, I'd already seen two of those friends post homesick selfies on their stories. I didn't say a word. I just updated the log. The night after that, she got a group text while we were watching a documentary. I glanced at the screen just enough to see an odd emoji in the group chat name, Escape Committee. That caught my attention. I didn't sleep much that week. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt in the way people assume you should be when you're being slowly discarded. I felt fascinated, almost clinical, like watching the steel bow before a crack forms. By Friday, I'd created 3 subfolders in that BBQ file: behavioral logs, phone pattern notes, chat watch list. I didn't know yet what would go in them, but I knew one thing: if Lena ever tried to tell people I overreacted, or that I imagined it, or that it was just a joke, I'd have context. I'd have data. I'd have her words, not mine. September 2024, Lakewood, Ohio. I was still 31 and already drafting the shape of the ending. Lena thought everything was back to normal. The morning after the BBQ, she was in the kitchen humming along to a playlist while frying eggs like her joke hadn't rung across my family's backyard like a car alarm. She handed me a mug of coffee, smiled, and said, "You seemed quiet last night." I told her I was just tired from the heat. That became my line for the next few weeks. By day, I ran construction projects. I supervised crews, coordinated with architects, fought with city permit offices. I lived in spreadsheets and Gantt charts. When you're accountable for making sure steel, glass, and concrete arrive on time and go where they should, you learn to see patterns. At home, I started seeing the same. At first, it was just hunches. A message preview disappearing before I could glance. A sudden need to take calls in the bathroom. Her phone on Do Not Disturb while she slept screen face down on the nightstand. Then I noticed timing. Lena had always been chatty group texts, DMs, voice notes, but now her activity followed a rhythm. Every night between 8 and 10, she'd be glued to her phone, thumbs, flying screen angled away. Then, like clockwork, she'd clear the log. I know that because the call history was always wiped clean, and the messaging apps had no recent threads when I passed by. It wasn't criminal, but it was curated. That's when I started tracking. I didn't need to sneak or snoop. I just observed. Like I would on site when someone rushes a job, the cement's still wet, the welds are thin, the cleanup too clean. I built a private file inside the same cloud where I stored project data. Subfolder phone pattern notes. I marked the first log, 9 halves, Monday night. 8, 2, 3 p.m. Texting intensely, laughing alone. 9, 4, 1 p.m. Took call, left the room. 1005 p.m. Call ended. Phone wiped. 1006 p.m. Smile changed. Over the next 10 days, the entries became clockwork. Different times, same behavior. Sometimes the call logs were blank even before the call ended. That meant auto-delete settings, or she was covering tracks in real time. That level of effort wasn't casual. Meanwhile, our home life took on a strange brightness. She started suggesting we go out more, new restaurants, a concert downtown, even a pumpkin patch trip for October. I said yes to everything. Not because I wanted to salvage us, because I wanted to study the structure from inside, like an engineer marking where to place the charges before a controlled demolition. At work, I told no one, not even my closest PM buddy Julian. But I began approaching my personal life with the same workflow logic. Define, observe, document, design, exit. By mid-September, I had cross-referenced over a dozen behavior logs and noticed a secondary detail: her girls' night texts. She'd mentioned someone's name, Allie, Nicole, Katie, but they didn't line up. One night, she said Nicole was taking her to a late movie. An hour later, Nicole posted an Instagram story of her, at home, sick in bed with a heating pad and soup. I screenshotted the post and dropped it into a new folder, behavioral logs. I wasn't looking for a smoking gun. I was documenting pattern misalignment. Lena wasn't messy. She was curated, calculated. But she didn't account for someone like me, someone who could build a forensic pattern across data points without even checking her phone directly. One night, while she was watching a show in the living room, her phone buzzed. I walked past to grab my charger. Just a glance. That's all it took. A group message from a chat named Escape Committee. I stopped mid-step. I'd seen enough project names in my life to know irony when I saw it. That emoji wasn't for fun. It was a signal. I made a note. 9/17. Escape Committee group spotted. Emojis airplane both sides. No preview content visible. Group not in log next morning. From there, things sharpened. I noticed she never replied to the group when I was near. She waited until I was upstairs or in the garage. And when I started playing music through the Bluetooth speakers in the house, something we used to do together, she'd suddenly need fresh air on the front porch alone with her phone. That alone wasn't betrayal, but it was performance. At work, I spent lunches watching AV specs for hotel ballrooms. It started as a curiosity, just wondering how those screens were powered, the formats accepted, the video codecs supported. Then I found myself emailing an old contact who worked events for a major downtown hotel. Just a simple message. Hey, what kind of media format does your ballroom projector accept? Asking for a buddy's engagement party. I wasn't lying. Technically, I was asking for a future engagement party. Just. Not the way most people meant it. At night, I laid in bed next to Lena, listening to the hum of her phone, the soft ping of group texts, and the faint giggle she tried to hide with a cough. I didn't flinch. I didn't confront. I just imagined what it would feel like to sit in a ballroom, her friends, her coworkers, maybe even her mom watching a slideshow of her curated life. A slideshow she helped assemble. One that would end not with a smile, but with a sentence. One of her own. Late September 2024, Lakewood, Ohio. I was 31 and holding a cloud folder that knew more about my relationship than most of my friends did. By then, the pattern wasn't just repeating, it was deepening. Lena's behavior grew more polished, more rehearsed. Like she'd settled into the comfort of her secret, and now walked lighter because of it. And I moved even quieter. I had no interest in confronting her. There wasn't anything new to gain from that. Instead, I wanted her to keep believing that nothing had changed. That her boyfriend Evan, the dependable one with the worn Carhartt jacket and project timelines in his back pocket, was too kind or too clueless to notice. That suited me perfectly. One evening, while Lena was in the shower, I walked past her laptop, which was open on the dining table. Nothing illegal, nothing invasive. Just the normal shared space of two people living together. The screen was dim but not locked. She'd been typing something in a tab titled Event Notes, probably a brainstorm for our upcoming engagement party. There it was again, the assumption that I was still playing along. I didn't touch anything, but I noticed something at the bottom of her desktop, an icon, a group chat app she didn't usually use. Its title read Escape Committee, same one from her phone. I filed that away. Then I went to the sink, washed a dish, and left no trace I'd ever paused. That night, I pulled out my laptop and logged into the cloud folder. The same one I used for professional documentation now housed a growing proof archive. Folder 1 Behavioral Logs. Folder 2 Phone Pattern Notes. Folder 3 Screenshots. Until now, the third folder was empty. That changed by midnight. Using my personal screen recorder app, I documented her laptop screen from across the room. It wasn't crystal clear, but I could make out enough. The chat wasn't just jokes or memes. It was strategy. Lines like, "He's sweet but dull, like a weighted blanket. He'll never cheat, which is why I'm restless. It's not bad, he's just background." I didn't recognize all the names in the chat, but the context was obvious. I screenshotted 4 frames, cleaned up the image quality, and exported them as stills. Each one got filed under a new subfolder, Chat Evidence V1. One message had her name beside it, timestamped at 9:03 p.m. I could cheat and he'd still believe I'm just tired. He'd ask if I'm okay. That's the problem. That line made my jaw lock. Not because it hurt, though, it did, but because it was so methodical, so aware. She wasn't oblivious. She'd calculated my predictability and bet her choices against it. That was the final clarity I needed. The next day, I printed one of the screenshots at a local shop, nothing large, just a high-quality 8x10 for my records. I wasn't planning to use it physically, but holding something tangible made the whole thing real. I slipped it into a manila folder and stored it in a drawer with some blueprints for a commercial renovation project. Oddly poetic, I thought. Beneath a hospital expansion and an office tower there, sat proof that I was no longer anyone's background character. Later that week, Lena mentioned the engagement party again. "Do you think the ballroom downtown would feel too formal?" she asked over dinner. "I think it's perfect," I said. She smiled like I'd passed a test. I took a bite of baked chicken and thought about fonts. Sans serif. Bold, white text over black screen. 30 seconds. Large letters. No music until the very end. That would do. The next morning, I emailed an event planner contact who'd previously helped coordinate a company holiday party at the downtown Cleveland hotel. The same ballroom Lena liked. My message was short and businesslike. "Hi, quick question for the ballroom AV system. What are the video format requirements? I'm prepping something for an upcoming engagement event and want to confirm compatibility. Prefer slide to video transitions, not embedded music. Appreciate any specs you can share." He replied within the hour. "Hi, Evan. The ballroom accepts MP4, MOV, and native slideshow formats, PowerPoint or Keynote. If you're planning a video segment, keep it under 2 minutes, HD resolution. Background music optional. Our AV team can preload the file and cue it after a speech divided by toast if needed. Let me know if you need technical walkthrough or dry run." I saved the email as PDF, timestamped it, and dropped it into the slideshow planning folder. That night, I made the first test slide. Simple white text on black, "He's sweet but dull, like a weighted blanket." Underneath, I added LO group chat, 9/24. Then I previewed the slide on full screen, let it sit for 10 seconds and watched. Quiet. Effective. Lena walked into the room as I minimized the window. "What are you working on?" "Client materials," I replied. "End of quarter stuff." She nodded and kissed me on the head before heading to the kitchen. The moment the door swung shut, I reopened the file and saved it as final text slide, V1. The idea now wasn't just about showing the truth. It was about giving her words the spotlight. No voiceover, no confrontation. Just the glow of a ballroom projector reflecting back exactly who she chose to be without me needing to say a word. And after that, I'd walk out. Not storm, not slam, just leave. Let the silence finish what the slideshow started. October 2024, downtown Cleveland, Ohio. I was still 31 standing under crystal chandeliers in the very ballroom where everything would end. Lena didn't suspect a thing. She was buzzing with energy the morning we confirmed the venue. She forwarded me the hotel email and said, "I can't believe we pulled this off. It's actually happening." I replied, "Looks like it." To her, it was a celebration in motion. To me, it was execution prep. The ballroom sat at the top floor of a downtown hotel, high ceilings, mirrored walls, dimmable lighting, and a sleek AV booth tucked discreetly to the left of the main floor. It wasn't extravagant, but it was polished. I had scheduled a technical walkthrough with the AV lead and the planner my contact had recommended. Just another fiancé doing his part to make the evening smooth. They didn't know the file I handed them wasn't just a slide deck. It was the fuse. We ran through the run of show. Guests would arrive around 6:30. Light appetizers and drinks until 7:15. Slideshow kicks off around 7:20 just after Lena's dad gave a toast. AV Tech would cue the file I labeled Final, Slides, Edit 3. The last segment, 30 seconds, no voiceover, no visuals, would be the only thing Lena hadn't previewed. I confirmed the cue point twice. The planner, a woman named Bree, tilted her head when she saw the final slide was just text on black. "Minimalist?" she asked, smiling. "Very," I said. "It's a personal quote segment." That wasn't a lie. They were personal. They were her quotes. I had tested the segment multiple times. On hotel equipment, the font looked clean and unforgiving white sans serif on a deep black field. The music, a soft piano track I sourced from a royalty-free library, began exactly 2 seconds in. Volume faded in from silence just loud enough to wrap the room in tension. The text appeared word by word, each quote lasting exactly 6 seconds. "He's sweet but dull, like a weighted blanket. I could cheat and he'd still believe I'm just tired. He's a placeholder I don't want to replace yet." Underneath each line, a small timestamp and her initials LO. That's all. No photos. No names of the chat participants. No extra commentary. Just her words, lit 10 feet tall on a hotel ballroom wall. After the walkthrough, I stood alone in the ballroom for a moment. The chandeliers weren't turned on yet. Only the light from the side sconces warmed the space, making the carpet shimmer faintly. I walked to the projector screen, placed my hand against the surface, and imagined the letters unfolding across it. Then I walked out. Back home that night, Lena was on the couch, curled up with a glass of wine, and a rom-com paused midway. "You okay?" she asked, noticing the way I stared at the wall. "Yeah," I said, just picturing how this all ends. She laughed. "With cake and champagne, hopefully." "Hopefully," I echoed. 2 days later, I met Uncle Mike at a diner just off Lorraine Avenue. He'd picked the place chrome counters, black coffee, no chance of running into Lena or anyone she knew. He listened while I laid out the timeline. No names, just structure. When I finished, he nodded once, no smile. Then he said the only sentence I needed to hear: "When the screen goes black, you walk. That's it." I planned the exit like I would any site closure. My go-bag, wallet, keys, change of clothes, car fob. Parked at a garage 1 block away, prepaid. Exit path rehearsed: down rear hallway, bypass coat, check, straight to stairwell, take 1 flight down to street level. No elevator, no stops. I programmed a message into my phone: "Done. On my way." It would go to Uncle Mike the moment I stepped into that stairwell. Lena, meanwhile, was buried in flower arrangements and playlist decisions. She sent me TikToks of slow dances and asked which one I liked best. I told her they all sounded good. She picked one with soft guitar and whispered lyrics. We were supposed to dance to it after the final slide played. We wouldn't. The night before the event, I checked everything again. The USB copy was in my desk drawer, labeled with a small sticker, "Play Me Last." The cloud version had a redundant backup under a different name. The AV team had confirmed their cue sheet with Bree. I deleted the project from my laptop, no trace, no risk. Only the file names remained in the cloud, time-stamped and watermarked, ready to play when the time came. Lena never suspected. She never asked why I was so calm, why I didn't have opinions about napkin colors or seating charts. Maybe she mistook detachment for trust. Or maybe she never saw me at all. I didn't mind. Not anymore. When you've seen a structure from all angles, when you know the weight it's carrying, the cracks beneath the polish, you stop worrying about what it looked like to others. You just do your job. And when the job's done, you walk away. Late October 2024, Lakewood, Ohio. I was still 31 and every item in my house had quietly become either something I'd take or something I'd leave behind. Lena was glowing. Not because of me, but because of the attention. The countdown to the engagement party, the group chats, the floral mock-ups, the playlist polls, it lit her up. and I let her shine. I kept being the agreeable one, the one who asked if she wanted help deciding napkin colors or whether she preferred mini quiches or sliders for the appetizer round. She smiled more when I played along. I didn't mind, because I'd already drawn the map for my own quiet exit. It started with a bag. Nothing dramatic. Just a basic duffel I tucked into the back of my closet. Inside 2 clean button-downs, a neutral sweater, a pack of socks, chargers, a passport I never used, and the key fob to my truck. It was the kind of bag you pack not because you're running, but because you want to walk without ever having to come back. I placed it behind a box of winter coats. No one would notice. The next thing was parking. I took a lunch break and drove downtown to scout the hotel. Not the ballroom, I already knew that layout, but the exits, the alleys, the hidden corridors. There was a garage about a block and a half away just off East 6th, covered unattended and open late. I parked there, walked the route twice, once in daylight, once after dusk. The path was clean exit ballroom through the rear corridor. Take service hallway past coat check, push through the exit stairwell, descend 1 floor door, opens to a side alley 28 steps to the garage. Perfect. I prepaid a spot for the night of the event, printed the confirmation, folded it twice and slid it into the front pocket of my duffel. I didn't tell Uncle Mike everything, but I texted him. If I send on my way, I'm good. Don't reply. Just let it sit. He responded with a thumbs up emoji and nothing else. At home, I began curating silence. Anything that might tempt me to argue, to confront, to waver, I let it pass. Lena vented about a friend who flaked on her fitting appointment. I nodded. She got passive-aggressive about me forgetting to RSVP to a cousin's birthday dinner. I apologized without defense. In private, I finalized every digital detail. The final, slides, edit 3 file was backed up to 2 separate cloud folders, one under a decoy name in my work archive, one timestamped as a tax document. The USB was taped discreetly inside the flap of my wallet behind an old subway card. The AV Planner Bree sent me a final check-in email. Evan, just confirming your slide deck is queued after Lena's dad's toast. Last 30 seconds equals text only, no image, audio, piano, underscore. Let us know if anything changes. I replied, that's correct. No changes. Thanks again. Then I archived the thread. That weekend, Lena took a call in the bedroom. I heard the words venues confirmed and can't wait to see your faces when it plays. I stood in the hallway out of sight holding a coffee mug that had gone cold. She thought the final 30 seconds of the slideshow were some kind of surprise highlight reel. She had no idea she was right, but not in the way she hoped. The day before the party, I cleaned the house from top to bottom. Not for her, for me. The books were shelved, the counters wiped, the closet reorganized. I placed a sticky note on the duffel that simply read, "Do not open, keep moving." That night I slept harder than I had in weeks. I woke early, dressed in a charcoal suit she'd never seen before, bought just for that night. Subtle, unremarkable. Just like everything else I planned. At 7:30 a.m., I drove the duffel to the garage downtown and stashed it behind the seat of my truck. I left the engine off. One key stayed in my pocket. Back home, Lena greeted me with hair in rollers, face bright with anticipation. Today's the day, she said, like it was something we built together. I kissed her on the forehead and said, it'll be a good one. And I meant it. January 2025, Akron, Ohio. I was 32. My calendar no longer had her name on it, and it hadn't for 2.5 months. The last thing Lena said to me, truly said, wasn't angry. She looked at me standing at the threshold of the garage that night and said, so, you really planned the whole thing? I didn't nod, didn't flinch. Just said no one deserved to be embarrassed, not even me. Then I got in the truck and drove north, without music, without second guessing. Akron felt like neutral ground. Close enough to jobs and friends if I needed to connect. Far enough that no one could just drop by. The city wasn't scenic, but it had structure. That's all I wanted. I signed a short lease on a 1-bedroom just outside Highland Square, top floor, view of a CVS and a dentist's office. But it was mine. I bought a used couch, a new mattress, and nothing else for a while. I didn't check Lena's socials. I didn't reach out to mutuals. Not even Emily, who texted once, "You okay?" and got a simple yes back. I meant it. By late January, I had rebuilt my routine around quiet choices. The alarm went off at 6. I ran, showered, brewed coffee, and checked emails before the sun finished rising. My clients were steady. The backlog of projects gave me control over my time. I picked the hours I worked, and I worked only with people who respected boundaries. On Fridays, I gave myself the morning off to walk through downtown and notice things I'd never had time to see before. A tree with a yellow ribbon tied in a perfect bow. A mural of a woman holding a globe with eyes closed, like she was listening to the planet breathe. An elderly man who fed the pigeons next to a meter that had expired 2 hours ago. These things didn't change my life, but they reminded me I had one. In early March, I got a certified letter from Lena's family attorney. I knew the name on the envelope before I opened it. I read the first line. This communication concerns the events of October 28th. Then I folded it and put it in a drawer. I never opened it again. The thing about public exits is people think you want attention. But I didn't want Lena punished. I didn't want revenge. I wanted out. I wanted out with my dignity, with receipts, and with enough silence that people had to decide for themselves whether I was the villain or the one who quietly told the truth. It wasn't until April that I finally logged into the backup folder labeled Quarterly Reports 2022. Inside was the original. Final, Slides, Edit 3, PPTX. I opened it, clicked through, and paused on that last text slide, the one that played in silence after Lena's dad's toast. What you call loyalty, I call erasure. What you called love, I call surveillance. What you saw in me, I'm finally starting to see for myself. I hit delete and emptied the trash. Not because I regretted it, but because I didn't need it anymore. By summer, I had taken on 2 new contracts, both from referrals who never asked what I used to do or where I used to be. One of them said, "You're the only designer I've worked with who sends final files with no drama." That made me laugh. Not because she knew what she was saying, but because she didn't. I saw Lena one last time. Late July, a coffee shop in Cleveland Heights. Total accident. She was walking in with a friend as I was walking out. She stopped, blinked, tilted her head like she didn't expect I'd look so regular. I just said, hey, nodded, and held the door open. She stepped through. We didn't even break stride. That moment. It wasn't vindication. It wasn't tragic. It was just quiet. And quiet was all I ever wanted. September 2025, Hilliard, Ohio. I was 33. The house was smaller, the town was quieter, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel the need to defend my choices. It started with my mom's birthday. She was turning 65 and wanted to keep it simple, which to her meant 30 people catered food and balloon letters, spelling out her name in the church rec room. My sister Megan called me in August. You'll come right. We told her you moved up north, but she keeps asking if you're still disappearing. I wasn't disappearing. I just didn't owe anyone explanations anymore. Still, I said I'd be there. The drive from Akron to Hilliard was less than 2 hours. I left early, brought my own coffee, and parked in a shaded spot at the back of the church lot. Inside, everything looked the same. Same folding chairs, same vinyl tablecloths, same aunt who always asked about my nice ex. But no one pushed, no one probed. Mom hugged me so tight I had to brace my knees. She pulled back, cupped my cheek, and said, I prayed for peace for you. I didn't correct her, because she wasn't wrong. Over cake, Megan passed me a small envelope. Inside, a printed copy of a flight itinerary. Cleveland to Seattle 2 weeks from that day. What's this? It's time, she said. Mom and I have talked about it. It's been long enough. You don't have to stay cut off. I looked down at the itinerary, the dates, the times, the confirmation number. My father lived in Tacoma. I hadn't spoken to him since I was 20. He wasn't at my wedding. Never met Lena. Never asked why we divorced. But every year, Megan sent him one photo, just one, and he always replied. This time she said he wants to see you. No expectations. I didn't book the flight right away. I went back to Akron, walked my usual loop, past the mural, past the pigeons, sat on the bench across from the old library. That night, I opened the old letters to Dad folder on my desktop. 43 documents, none ever sent. The oldest was from 2014. The newest dated October 27, 2023. You once told me a real man doesn't leave evidence of his pain? Well, I did. I left it in slides and silence in the face I made when I saw myself disappear. I'm not writing for a reply. Just wanted you to know I'm still here. More me than ever. I didn't cry. Didn't delete it. I just closed the laptop and whispered, yeah, I'm still here. 2 days later, I booked the flight. I didn't tell anyone at work I was leaving. My contracts were in good shape, auto replies were set, and I left my laptop in Akron. When the plane touched down, Megan picked me up and drove us south. She stayed in a motel while I went to the house. Dad was older than I remembered, but his voice hadn't changed. We talked on the porch for 3 hours without once mentioning the past. He showed me photos of his garden. I showed him pictures of a mural. He said, you're calmer than I expected. I said I'm quieter than I used to be. He nodded. That's not a bad thing. Back in Akron, I didn't move, didn't pivot, didn't launch a new business or post a healing journey video. But I did write one final email. To myself. Subject line, what we know now. We know that love without listening is just surveillance. We know that control wears disguises, luxury logic ambition. We know that silence can be violence, or it can be peace. We know the difference now, and we chose peace. I didn't hit send. I saved it in the folder called receipts. Because some receipts aren't for sharing. Some are just for safekeeping. October 2025, Akron, Ohio. I was still 33. The leaves were shifting to rust and copper. My lease was up in 10 days. No one knew what came next, and for once I liked it that way. I'd gone to the library that morning, not for books, just for the feeling. The brick steps creaked. The heavy doors sighed. The same older man with the wireless earbuds nodded at me from the genealogy kiosk. This was where I used to sit after sessions, after meetings, after hearings. This was where I wrote the first budget projection for Lena's retreat project, and later where I deleted the last trace of her business from my desktop. That morning, I sat at my usual table. I didn't open a laptop, didn't read. I just watched the dust float between sunbeams and let my mind wander back. Back to the conference room, back to the sliding folder, back to her saying, "It's not personal, it's legal." I used to replay that moment in my head like a courtroom drama, imagining the better comeback, the stronger stance. But now I didn't feel anger, just distance. And gratitude for that distance. I visited the mural one last time. They'd touched it up, added small golden specks in the background. I saw myself reflected in the painted glass shards. A little older. A little clearer. A mother with her toddler walked by and smiled at me. "Beautiful piece, huh?" I nodded. It was unfinished for a long time. "Some art takes time," she said. I didn't reply. Didn't need to. The next day I drove to Cuyahoga Valley. The air was crisp enough to sting, but the trails were dry. I hiked alone, no headphones, no texts, no social apps calling me back. At the overlook, I pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was a printout, the final codicil, the one that stripped Lena's claim from the business assets. No judge signature, just her own signature and the timestamp. I didn't shred it, didn't burn it. I just folded it again and slid it into a plastic sleeve. At the base of a birch tree, I buried it. Not as a symbol, not as some grand ritual. Just to stop carrying it. When I got home, I packed with quiet hands. Only essentials, 2 boxes of clothes, a few books, the handwritten list of all clients who'd stayed loyal post-divorce. One frame. It held a photo of me and Megan on the church steps. Mom had snapped it just before we left her party. In it, I was half laughing mid-step, not posing. Just being. That's the one I kept. I left the keys under the mat. Texted my landlord a short thank you. No forward address. Let the silence speak for itself. The final night in Akron, I stayed at a small B&B by the lake. The owner was a soft-spoken woman who handed me the key and said, "You don't look like someone running from anything, just done with something." I smiled. "That's exactly right." She didn't ask what. That was the best part. I walked down to the dock after dinner. The water was still. The moon was out. A heron stood frozen at the far edge. And for the first time since everything, since the folder, the departure, the audit, the signatures, I felt no impulse to narrate it, explain it, justify it. Not even to myself. Just a quiet truth. Sometimes the best revenge isn't power or reputation or proving your worth. Sometimes it's this. Being somewhere no one can reach. Choosing stillness. And knowing deep in your bones that you didn't just survive what they did, you outgrew it. Some endings don't come with fireworks or applause. They come with silence, with calm. I didn't slam a door. I didn't publish a tell-all. I just left. Left the city, the fight, the need to be right. And in doing so, I reclaimed more than money, more than name. I reclaimed myself. I used to think justice meant making them see. Now I know it means seeing clearly and walking anyway. Past the signatures, past the settlements, past the weight of what they almost took from you. If you've ever packed a quiet bag and disappeared from someone's narrative, tell me what freedom looked like for you.